Hello and welcome to Everyone's an Expert. We're starting a minute earlier because I was resetting some things on the opening crawl, and of course the timer didn't change, just when I started the video changed. So sorry about that if we went a little silent there for a little bit. But welcome to Everyone's an Expert. Exciting day with a lot of weird news and a lot of news we kind of expected. But anyway, this is the place where we can all put our heads together, and together we're all an expert more than this dummy who didn't get the opening scene set up right is. So for today, we'll be accepting payment in Grimace coin. I don't know if anybody saw that, but we had Elon Musk was saying he'd eat a Happy Meal on TV if McDonald's accepted Dogecoin, and McDonald's response was, sure, as soon as Tesla starts accepting Grimace coin, which a lot of people thought was stupid. I thought it was hilarious, and hilarious because it was so stupid. Kind of like what the fun of Dogecoin memes and everything are all about. So just that was not obviously the most important piece of news today, but thought I'd start out with something a little bit fun. So just going to move the microphone here, so I'm going to pause it or mute you here for back, and hopefully this is a little better sounding and I won't bump the microphone again. But welcome to Everyone's an Expert. Obviously today was the Q4 earnings call, and so kind of an overview of all that happened in the Tesla world last year. And they had the earnings call, and they kind of gave a product roadmap into what would be happening in 2022. And some people might say it was not much of a product roadmap at all. But hopefully it gave clarity to some things that we've seen going around. I think I'll just start with we'll start going through the calls. There's some other fun EV news too, but I'll just start going through some notes from the call. I did watch Rob Maurer's live streams from Tesla Daily. He does a great job of breaking down all the financial stuff. That's not my strong suit at all. So I might mention a number here or there, but really my focus is more what's the news, what are the nuggets, what do I think they mean. If you guys want to jump in the chat and let me know what you think, I'm happy to respond to anything there as well. So it was exciting to see that in the shareholder letter that they were talking about being profitable while building 2 new factories, and those 2 new factories, Austin and Berlin, haven't started contributing anything yet. They've just been a cost, and yet they've still been able to be profitable as that ramps up. So that's very cool. Another big thing is that they're living with 4 days of inventory, which is incredibly small, especially since their inventory is straight to the customer, not considered sold when it goes to a dealer. And then there's obviously a time between a dealership gets it and a customer gets it. With Tesla, since the dealership, the stores are all part of Tesla, there's no gap there from when it's in Tesla's ownership to the owners. So that's pretty cool. 4 days is astronomically small. Hey, Roland, good to see you. Welcome. I hope things aren't too cold up in North Dakota right now. We've been having some good doses of cold here. So looking forward to that vacation, which is less than a month away now. So we're excited for that big road trip, and obviously I'll take everybody along with us and probably do some road trip or a little bit of live stream when we're on the trip too. We'll see if that works out. I'm hoping we can make that work, but we'll see. We might just be having too much fun. So back to the hey, Jim's here too. Todd, hello, welcome. Jim just had Iowa Tesla guy. Jim just did a video on kind of some aftermarket pieces to keep scuffs and things away from your the edges of your doors as you're getting in and out, and some back pocket protectors as the on the sides of the Model Y there are two kind of slots on either side of the trunk, and that's where I always put milk jugs. And so when I saw Jim's video, I thought, hey, that's I have a fear every time I put a milk jug down there that it's going to leak or spill. When I was a kid, we had a relatively new station wagon that had a whole gallon of milk spilled in the back, and it always kind of had that milk funk in it after that. And that's my fear with the Tesla. So I might be picking up some of those back storage liners because you can pop them out. It seemed really slick. So that's what Jim's up to. If you haven't checked out his channel, check out Iowa Tesla guy. It was warming to 25 Fahrenheit today in Williston, North Dakota. So that's pretty toasty. I'm impressed. I thought you guys would be below zero for sure. Back to the earnings call stuff, or the shareholder letter. They grew their output by almost 90%, which is crazy. The German Model Ys will start with 2170s and then presumably move over to the battery casting, and then the 18650s eventually. But they're going to start out with the 2170s. I don't know if that's there's probably a lot of supply chain reasons for that. They also said they had nearly 60,000 FSD beta testers now. And that blew my mind. That's way, way great. Way greater number than I expected. I can't remember the last update they gave, but I thought it was like in the 15,000 range, maybe 20,000 range. So they must be getting a lot of good data back. I know I'm hitting that report button every time something funky happens with us. So that's cool to see. I've got a lot more thoughts on beta coming up as we get further in here. Tom puts his milk in the little troughs there too. Jason, hello. Welcome, guys. And so the Model Y will start with the structural battery pack 4680s in Texas soon. Sounds like they're just waiting for permits in both locations to start rolling those things out. So that's exciting from a product standpoint. And obviously getting localized production in Europe will be great. And then they also talked about having new factory locations that they're going to be scouting this year, and then announce, sounded like 2 new factory locations by the end of this year. So that'll be exciting. Obviously that won't, maybe they would break ground in 2023, maybe start production in 2024, depending on if they move China fast, Germany fast, or US fast. So we'll have to wait and see what they choose. But they should be getting good at building factories at this point. They seemed confident in full self-driving this year. Again, more on that. And then they said they should be able to grow 50% this year with only the Shanghai and Fremont factories, which means if the other factories do anything at all, which of course we expect them to, it should be a huge year of growth, and then next year would obviously be even faster once those are full. The new ones are fully ramped. So that's great, and I know there's been a lot of talk online about the prices have gone up, the wait times are even longer. Hopefully, this helps back that timeline down. But really, I can't remember who was talking about the pricing thing, and it is unfortunate that the prices have gone up so much, especially through last year. I hope we're at the top of that, because I think Brandon Flash pointed out that they're making a lot more money on car. They're selling the cars for more, but doing better efficiency on producing them. So the price to produce them goes down, but yet the prices have gone up. But someone else pointed out a couple weeks ago, I can't remember if it was Rob Maurer or who it was, but that basically if they're selling every one they can with, obviously a 4-day average inventory, and if they're selling them at this price and the wait times are still 6 months to a year out, then you could raise the price, or you could lower the price probably, but then your wait times go out 2 years, and who's realistically going to wait around 2 years for a car? So it does make sense if they can to capture some of that higher cost or higher price. Does it mean more people can't get into EVs faster? Yes. And, well, it means only wealthier people or people who can get a better loan are able to get into one, which is unfortunate. That's where, although Elon doesn't like the tax credit thing, helping someone out in a situation that, could get them into an EV faster would be great. It would also be great if the other manufacturers actually built their EVs at scale and at the speed we'd like to see them do. With GM just putting out 26 EVs in all of Q4. And I know there's reasons for it, battery replacements and all that. But, unless these other manufacturers really start cranking them out, Tesla's always said they can't do it alone. We need these other manufacturers. And there's a lot of other great EV brands. The price rising is unfortunate, but you also don't want a price low enough that someone says, yeah, I'm going to put my money down and I've got a 3-year wait. What's the point? I know some Cybertruck people are feeling that way right now, but I think we all kind of knew that was going to take some time. And like last week I said, that was the rumor that it wouldn't be till 2023, and now that has been confirmed. So we'll see. I still think we'll see, like the other day, some photos leaked from Giga Texas of the new Alpha build, and Elon had said he was driving it around, and it's awesome. We'll get more into that a little bit later, but yeah, I'll save that for that part of the call. Material costs and shortages are killing gains in production. Yeah, they said Shanghai is not at. Yeah, they said Shanghai is not at full production yet. Jason is saying in the chat here, and that's right. And they're building more capacity there. I think they just built another section onto that factory. So, yeah, until they can get past the chip shortage stuff. Is my camera floating in and out? little bit. Just, okay. I think it's just the focus. But if you see a hard wobble in there, let me know and I'll try to fix it. It shouldn't be hunting in and out too much. I'm going to just check something. Okay. Hopefully that's better. I don't know. We'll see. I just caught something out of the corner of my eye. So, obviously if they can ramp more in Fremont, which I don't know how they have any space to do that, but if they can, that's great. And then ramping Shanghai and adding, I know they have space there, so adding more capacity there will be great. It sounds like they just got to power through this chip shortage. And they thanked their suppliers and talked a little bit about how, for a while there they couldn't get the chip, like the boring chips, just the chip that moves the seat back and forth. And so they're waiting on putting the seats in cars. Those kind of bottlenecks they've talked about before, about there's so many pieces to a car, and if you're just missing one piece, you don't have a finished car. USB hubs notwithstanding, apparently, in some cases. But hopefully that all got sorted out. Anyway, then Elon came on and gave us the product roadmap that we were all excited for. And this year's focus is scaling output. And he talked a little bit about how no new vehicles or products will be coming this year. And that is because it would take resources away from making more vehicles on the lines they have, improving those lines. It does sound like they're still working through some chip stuff. But interestingly, it sounds like batteries are not the constraint yet. So he said no new vehicles or products this year, but they are going to get some of the toolings and lines set up for the Cybertruck, Semi, and Optimus, which we'll talk more about that. So those things can roll out hopefully efficiently in 2023. And then he kind of went off about Optimus a little bit. Optimus is the code name for the Tesla bot. And this was really interesting to me because he was talking about this with the same enthusiasm that he used to talk about FSD. And he seems so confident. It's almost like he feels so confident about FSD that he's like on to the next challenge. Like, okay, we've got that solved. What's the next big thing? So I was expecting zero talk about the Tesla bot, and there was quite a bit. He seems to really love the promise of what that can bring to the future of manufacturing. We'll see. I find this one a little harder to believe in that, not that you couldn't find a ton of uses for it, but I don't know that we're going to get set up this year and then next year we'll have simple Tesla bots helping us move freight around warehouses. It's another one of those that's great, and that's an ambitious timeline, and hopefully that pushes the engineers to try to hit that. It seems wildly optimistic, but I am definitely not a robotics expert or an AI expert. So, it seems like it's his solution to worker shortages. He's if you follow him on Twitter, he's very concerned about population decline. So it could be kind of a hedge against that, which is interesting. I don't share exactly his fears about that. I understand you don't want it to collapse all at once super fast. But, a general scaling down of the overall population, to some degree, I don't think is the end of the world. But obviously, he's probably spent more time thinking about this than I have. But I think there are enough places in the world where things are very crowded, and if they weren't as crowded, that wouldn't be so bad. Now some of that could be like just space allocation and income and a whole bunch of other societal factors, but that it's something to keep an eye on. It doesn't seem like hit the panic button yet, so we'll see. But yeah, I think it's you can have someone, a robot doing a dangerous task, which is what they've kind of talked about these things doing. I wonder, this is just came into my mind as, battery production. I imagine you're dealing with some hazardous materials there. And there's also so much done. I know in clean rooms you have to do the different steps and wear all the gear so that nothing can contaminate the cell lines. I wonder if they're thinking that would be a cost-effective use there for TeslaBot down the road. Anyway, I'm not as bullish on TeslaBot and how fast it's going to make an impact. But the interesting thing about that is, like I said, he seemed to be talking about like FSD is essentially solved and I'm on to the next challenge, which is where people like him should be. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? I'm a little curious as to some of the comments he made later as to why they're so confident. And we'll get into that in a minute, too. And he also answered a question saying everything pales in comparison to the value of FSD robotaxi, and it kind of blows your mind. So Jim thinks that the TeslaBot is vaporware, just a ploy to attract talent to join the team. It could be. There's definitely you get someone who wants to work on that, and yeah, we're working on that in the background, but we got to solve this FSD challenge first. Or once we finish this FSD challenge, that will also apply to the TeslaBot. It could be a little of that, a little recruiting, marketing kind of talk. But like I said, I was surprised at how excited he seemed about that. And then he talked about how somebody asked about the 4680s, kind of how those are going. And he said the 4680s are not a constraint to production in 2022. And they're driving vehicles now and will be delivering them soon that have the structural battery pack with the 4680s already in Giga Texas, or Giga Austin. And I thought that was really interesting because we haven't heard much. You kind of got the vibe that the Cybertruck or the semi-truck was waiting on 4680s, and well, they just must not have enough or enough tested to put them in there yet. And it sounds like, well, we've got enough that our Model Y production out of Austin will not be constrained in 2022. That means that Cato Road plant and maybe some of the Austin plant battery line is they're cranking out a lot of batteries, or they have been enough for the last year or so that they've got enough that are, tested and validated that they're sticking into cars. So that's exciting and actually further along than I expected them to be. I didn't think they'd start 4680s in Austin. So that was a surprise to me. And cool. It'll be interesting to see how many customers care which battery they have. I know probably anybody watching this would care to get the 4680. But it'll be interesting to see how that differentiation takes place and how that works. Jim says, kind of like the Cybertruck, too soon for being vaporware. I've got some more thoughts on that. I don't know if I have. I've got more notes on that, so I will get back into Cybertruck stuff. Tim, welcome. Tim says, although I had a pretty good idea, Cybertruck was delayed again. I was really hoping it would still come this year. At the production rate they discussed, most people are at least 2 more years out. Sadly beginning to think Cybertruck is vaporware as well. I think, since we're on that topic, I'll jump ahead. My thought is, and I've said this in an earlier live stream too, but my thought was the Cybertruck was so bonkers and kind of a jolt to the other automakers, to the F-150s, to the Silverados. And, like I was saying, Tesla can't make all the cars in the world. But that was a segment that really needed to be electrified, and research and development had to be done in that. And so when the Cybertruck came out, I think it was kind of a signal to those companies like, get off your butts because we're coming for you. But like Tesla can't make all the cars in the world, their mission is to accelerate the transition to electric vehicles or sustainable energy, whatever. And so I kind of wonder if serving the mission of giving those guys a cattle prod served the mission more than making their truck first. Rivian's obviously doing it, and it sounds like their production is starting to ramp a little bit, so that's good. A lot of people seem to like that truck. I think it looks good. All the reviews have been pretty good, so that's great. But I kind of wonder if Tesla always thought, we aren't going to produce this for a while, but we want to announce it to get other companies, worried about it. Jim can park his Cybertruck next to the Roadster, definitely. But I do think it's coming. My only concern about it, I'll skip ahead in my notes here. The Cybertruck bottleneck on the volume production possibilities are not going to be the batteries, so they're feeling good about that. The balance is going to be in trying to keep it affordable, and only 250,000 vehicles per year eventually. And, like you guys, I was like, oh, that's not awesome. Now maybe they'll be able to figure out how to build them so easy and so cheap on their end that it makes sense to, screw all the money or, screw all the development on Model Y. Or maybe that'll be just so in the bag at that point that they'll do a few lines of Cybertruck because the demand seems like it's there. But I'm concerned, and I've seen a few other people post this on Twitter too, of the Fabergé egg effect of the Model X coming to haunt the Cybertruck a little bit. Where you had people saying it needs to have a pass-through into the storage area. We want the ramp, the tonneau cover, that should be solar. Okay, we'll do that. The EV Hummer's got four-wheel steering and crab walk. Okay, we'll add that. And, now Elon was saying, the bottleneck is going to be trying to keep it affordable. And it seems like they're trying to balance this. Have it be this awesome truck from the future thing that they promised, and add all these tech and features, but yet keep it affordable. And I don't think you can do all of that. Well, I know you can't do all of that, but when the Cybertruck rolled out, everybody said, "What the hell is this?" And the things that were amazing about it was the stainless steel. What the air suspension could do. It had the T-rails in it, and you could drive the Cyberquad up, in the back. And the tonneau cover was tough enough that you could stand on it. And you could shatter the windows. That was a big feature. And it seems like, they had that reveal, and then for a while people were arguing about, is it a truck? Is it good? Is it bad? Whatever. And then the more people started thinking about it, they're like, oh, hey, you should add this. You should add this. And I'm sure people inside Tesla were doing the same thing. They're engineers and everything. And so it feels like they went from something relatively simple in their world to, well, if we're doing this, let's add this, let's add this, let's add this. And then you have this big Easter basket full of stuff gotta dump out and put into the actual truck. And I would almost rather see a more bare bones Cybertruck, and as it was presented, that doesn't, the pass-through would be awesome. But I would rather there was a cheaper Cybertruck that people could actually get and was easier to produce with maybe fewer, possible problems as from a maintenance and service standpoint. I really feel like they could do a lot. They could make a much bigger impact and do it faster by just making a kick-butt truck that didn't necessarily have every bell and whistle in it. Because like their other products, they're going to sell as many as they can make. But if the Lightning is a hit, and the Silverado is a hit, and Rivian continues to scale and continues to be a hit, and then Tesla comes out late, and the reviews are things are breaking on it, or kind of like the early Falcon Wing doors. If those are all that gets talked about, then you're going to have, obviously you won't have good owner satisfaction, but you're going to be ceding all of that momentum and energy to the other companies, which if they're all EVs, great. But if it means more people are holding on to their gas and diesel trucks longer, then that's not great. And if the Cybertruck isn't selling that great, and Ford and Chevy aren't producing a ton of theirs and aren't seeing a lot of conversions on their end, it's not going to keep that cattle prod at them to continue to produce. high volumes. Hopefully that's all wrong, and the Cybertruck's going to be gnarly when it rolls out. I was expecting to see some, because we'd seen those spy shots and Elon had said he was driving it around in it. I was expecting to see or hear some of how that stuff is going. So that was a surprise. Jason says, yeah, a 35 or 25,000 truck would be a world changer. Yeah, it would be. You'd be, competing with you could have a fantastic Cybertruck, and if you could hit those prices without all the bells and whistles, I used to have a little Toyota truck. I used to have a little Isuzu truck. They weren't Cybertruck sized, but they were fantastic. Absolutely no bells and whistles whatsoever. But they just got the job done, and they were dependable, and I didn't need much more than that. So, I think, like I said, I think they've got this Easter basket full of hopes and dreams, and they kind of need to throw that out and go back to what does it need to be? What should it be? And maybe they are. That might be why we haven't heard some about it. Like Elon was saying, I drove it around Giga Texas and it's fantastic. But he also may have come back and said, yeah, we don't want, the Cybertruck shouldn't be this and it shouldn't be that and we shouldn't do this or that. Or what if we do this instead? So they might be, with these alpha builds, trying to hammer through some of that. And that's why maybe giving a real. I wonder if they were coming to this meeting with a product roadmap for the Cybertruck, and they were going to maybe announce specs and everything. And after spending a couple days with it, it's awesome, but we're gonna, internally change some things. To kind of hit a better sweet spot between that affordability and features place. That's my that's what I'm thinking about. Like when Elon mentioned he was going to be on the call to do a product roadmap, that was weeks ago. So that could have been the plan a month ago at a meeting. Like, okay, let's figure out what we're doing with these alpha builds. I'll give the update on the call. Then he gets to Giga Texas, drives it around, talks to the engineers and the people around there, and goes, we're not ready for this. We're not going to do it this way or that way, or we'll never be able to produce this at cost. And maybe kind of threw that plan out a little bit. And if that's the case, I'm glad they didn't tell us that, because you kind of want some of that stuff to stay internal. It's a good story for later after they've solved it, to say, yeah, we were going to do this and then decided this was better. But through the process, you're going to get a lot of armchair quarterback people who think they know better than everyone else. Dan saying, hi Dan, the one bell and whistle I want is the mid-gate pass-through. Game changer for truck camping. Yeah, definitely. Got to keep being patient, though I will be getting impatient if we don't have production by the time 2023. Yeah. The mid-gate pass-through, I know everybody wants it. And it looks super cool in the Silverado. I do wonder in practice, I thought their whole thing of how you could extend the bed out to 10 foot 10 inches was fantastic on the Silverado reveal. But I'm thinking in practice, okay, they had a kayak in the back of that. So me and my family take the kayak in the EV Silverado, and, we're going out in the woods, and as we're hauling that thing, maybe down a stretch of freeway, we've got all the wind and noise of the freeway, which is fine. We're going through the woods, leaves and bugs and things are falling in there and blowing around a little bit. Then, we get to the lake, we pull it out, have our kayak time, bring it back in, put the kayak, then we got wet and kayak in that section on the inside of the vehicle. If you're hauling that thing and it rains, do you have rain splashing up inside? And once you've got that kind of segmented pass-through, if you have somebody sitting back there too, then, I'm kind of getting splashed. And again, if you're up for adventure and it's all part of the fun, it's useful, that's great. If you're going back and forth to a job site that way, on cold days like today in Minnesota, or rainy days in other parts of the world, is that really something how often are you really going to use it? I guess it's kind of like the passenger seat lumbar thing. And so as much as I think it would be awesome for car camping, and I would love it for that if I were to buy a Cybertruck, which I'm not planning on, I would when they come out and one is available to rent, I would love to rent one. But, I'm just a little concerned that the novelty of that makes a bunch of hassles. Like they said, they're going to have this rolling tonneau cover. The way it looked on the original was that the tonneau cover rolls through that mid-gate, back area, past the back window, and rolls down. Well, now if that mid-gate has to move in and out, then you need to make sure every time that tonneau cover comes down, it comes all the way out of that. And so maybe your roll underneath becomes bigger. And then every time you put that mid-gate back up, it's got to align just perfectly so that thing can roll perfectly through. So I can see how it would, not that it's impossible, but it would invite a lot of engineering hassle and complexity. And then again, on top of the tonneau cover, you get mud, snow, water, ice in that, and that's rolling through that not stable joint. How is that all working? So it's not that it couldn't be engineered out of it, but that's always been my concern. Like, as cool of a feature as that is, does it ultimately hurt the affordability or real world use of the vehicle? So I don't have the answer. We'll see what they come up with. A lot smarter people than me are working on this. So I'd love to know if anybody has any thoughts on that in the chat as well. Dan also said, Also, he has to stop reading too much into the tea leaves. Was hoping a Cybertruck at Texas prior to earnings was just a pure coincidence. Or was not just a pure coincidence, but it seems to be, yeah. Yeah, it seems like. That's why I think they're testing them, and for whatever reason, they're just not ready to talk enough about it. There's been rumors going around about this steel plant that's being built nearby. And, the people from the plant say we have no, relationship with that factory. That doesn't mean there couldn't be one in the future. They kind of sounded like they'd be open to it. So I wonder if they're just kind of waiting to get some of those other ducks in a line, ducks in a row, um, to really make any big announcements with it. So it's just going to be a wait and see game on that. But I really hope they can sort this out and raise their production targets. The 250,000 a year is just incredibly low compared to their reservation list. And it's kind of the same thing I was saying with the Lightning, with the Mach-E. As those things ramp up, just plan on needing more capacity. You need to make more of these as fast as you can. You'll sell every one you can. So yeah, those are my Cybertruck thoughts. On the chip limitations, they said this year 2022 should be better, and then next year and going forward, then chips won't be the supply issue. It will be batteries, probably. That constraint will probably shift to batteries. So I guess that's good. And they seem to be securing some different supply chain contracts for different battery materials. And they talked about how the lithium iron phosphate batteries will not be in the 4680 form factor. There's something about that form factor that doesn't work as well, I guess, or isn't optimal for that chemistry. So that's actually good, because then you can have more manufacturers making that form factor for the lower range cars, and they don't all need to be working on 4680s, although they did say they have a few suppliers that are coming online with 4680s, probably not for this year, but next year. Interesting comments around, and this kind of gets back into the full self-driving thing. The $25,000 car, there was a question about it that I think was answered kind of rudely because of the way Elon thinks about things and the way humans think about things. The question was, what's the plan? When is that thing gonna happen? And they said the $25,000 car is not on the plate right now. And really, that's the wrong question. The question should be, when is autonomous? When vehicles are autonomous, the cost of transportation goes down. And so, analyst guy on the call is going, "Hey, you're going to make this car. Are you going to make this car?" And Elon's saying, "The car was all a dream." And maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Who knows? We can park it next to the Cybertruck and the Roadster. From Elon's perspective, having the cheaper car or having people be able to get transportation for cheaper makes that idea obsolete. I don't know how fast or how eager people are going to be to constantly, I get that it'll all be on an app. You'll just order your robo-taxi, it shows up, you do your thing, get out, you order one later when you need it. But even if full self-driving were perfect today, there would be a handful of people who would use that. Definitely younger people coming up, as they are able to, go places on their own. Younger generations would jump on it relatively fast. but I don't think someone my age necessarily. I'm 45. Let's go with that. I don't think someone my age or older is going to go, self-driving cars? Well, sure, I'll sign me up. I'll just order one and trust it. That's going to take a while. It's going to take, their kid using it and then, a period of like, wait, you trust that thing? Isn't it scary? And then maybe riding with them somewhere to a game or a concert or something in one. And then like, oh, that wasn't too bad. Still not for me. Maybe next year I'd be comfortable. So I think the assumption from Elon's mind is it's going to be so cheap and efficient, people will just be signing up all over the place. And he kind of likened it to, kind of a custom bus ticket that's cheap without needing to be subsidized, which is great if people have the confidence in it and people are actually doing it and using it. So I don't think it's going to be like flipping a switch. Like maybe when we look back in 20 years, it'll feel like flipping a switch. But the idea that, that's all going to happen and regulators will allow that, I think we're a ways from that, and building a cheaper car would help ease that transition better than waiting for all of that to actually happen and society to be okay, feeling confident in that. So we'll see. That kind of goes to the difference in perspective that he has that I have on it. Safety for Most says Price will get the over 545 crowd to use it. Yeah. That will definitely help. But also, there have been things in my life that are, if it's that cheap, there must be something wrong with it. So I think there's little hang-ups that people are just going to have to get over. But like I said, you maybe try it out going to a concert with some friends of like, oh, this will be fun. We'll vlog it or whatever, live stream it, and yeah, if the cost is right and people have a great experience, it's like, oh, I'm taking this to the bars, I'm taking this everywhere. So it could, it'll be a matter of, I think, how fast people start trying it, get used to it. I know I've been in some uncomfortable cabs in my day, some uncomfortable Ubers, and that it would definitely take that factor out of it, even if it's a little unsettling that no one's driving. I think those of us who have tested beta long enough would kind of know what to expect. But I kind of want to get to this because, like I was saying, they seem kind of like, at least Elon seems kind of like it's a foregone conclusion. He seems very confident that they're going to be many times safer than a person this year. And that there was another question about, could they do like an a la carte or a license for FSD that was kind of like a lifetime license, or like a business license, so you could have multiple vehicles. And it sounded to me, and then Rob Maurer on his stream also kind of wrote it up this way, that it sounded like eventually they're gonna just switch it all over to a pay per mile or pay per energy, pay per mile and energy consumed metric, and that if you want to buy it with a car, fine, but it's going to be expensive, or just whenever you're using it, you pay that rate. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But they also, I'm kind of jumping toward the end. They were talking about, he made the comment that FSD users should be seeing the pace of improvement, and it's fast. And we should see the rate of disengagements is decreasing fast. And he seemed very confident, and looking at the macro, but just trying to decipher my notes here. He seemed very confident in it, but also he's looking at the macro data, and to me, I don't feel like my disengagements have gone down that drastically. But I'm also driving in, snow-covered roads sometimes, and intentionally trying to get it to take hard routes. But it can still screw up in my neighborhood occasionally. And not being able to read human interactions yet. There's a situation where I was about to turn onto my road, take a left onto the street I live on, and at the first house there was a FedEx truck, and the driver was across the street and was going to walk out, and he waved me forward. I'm trying to think. There was an odd human sequence of events, and the car kind of it was slowing down, but it didn't stop. And I was waving him forward because he's working and needs to get back to his truck. And I think had he taken a step out, well, I'm very confident had he taken a step out, the car would have stopped. But then it would have been in an awkward position, and he would have wondered, well, is he still going? He waved me forward. And so there's just a little, I'm not explaining it well, but welcome to the show. But it didn't quite, it would have stopped, but wouldn't have made the other person comfortable, is what I'm saying. So there's still that human factor that needs to somehow be put into the system. The not be a jerk factor, which is a big one for me. A lot of my disengagements are, no, that's a jerk thing to do. Today I was driving down a hill, and there was a semi in front of me going pretty slow, and I needed to take a right at the bottom of this hill. And FSD wanted to go around, get in front of this truck, and then take the right, which was perfectly fine technically. But knowing how semis are going down hills, it was a jerk move to want to get in front of this guy and then slow down to turn. Now, he was going slow enough, it might not have been an issue, and in fact, somebody actually passed the truck, and took that turn, maybe even an earlier one. But it was just a courtesy thing that to save 20 seconds wasn't worth the societal frustration it would cause. So there's just things like that are yeah, and Todd is saying the at 99.9% every 9 to the right of the decimal point is harder than the last one. Yeah, considerably. And Safety for Most says, Beta on snow and ice has a very long way to go, definitely. It does not adjust to slipperiness as it does on the curves. Yep, I've had a couple. Nope, we're just going way too fast for this situation and taking it out and kind of looked like an idiot. But I'm hoping they can I'm hoping all of these winter disengagements of it kind of getting too close to the edge snow, of centering in lanes where it shouldn't be because of snow. I hope all that data is really being worked on. I'm still on 8.1. And so, like I was saying, he seems really confident, and so he's looking at the macro data and saying, we're seeing the rate of disengagements on people's drives go down, which is great. But I don't know, being still on 10.8.1, I don't know if I'm seeing that rate go down that fast, and if I'm seeing it go down over time fast enough. Now we'll see what 10.9, if I end up getting that, I'll definitely be testing that out. And version 11, this mythical version 11, if that's what they're looking at, then, they might see, oh, this is going to blow people's minds. And maybe it will, but we haven't seen that yet. So it's hard to take that all without a big grain of salt at this point, even though I do think it's getting better and it's on the right path. I just saw Dave is in the chat. Hi, Dave. Welcome. I enjoyed your day trip. I hope, I can't remember her name, but I hope the gal who bought your Mach-E is still enjoying it. I saw you and your wife made a day trip to go down and meet her and eat at Denny's, so that's fantastic. And interesting to see the different consumption down there with a little bit warmer weather. But yes, I am still on FSD beta 10.8.1. So I think it seems like 10.9 got stalled out, and I don't know why. This could be one of those, they found a bug they're trying to fix, and there will be a 10.9.1. Or it could be version 11's a couple days away. Let's not bother shipping out more 9. We learned what we needed to from 9. That's the kind of thing, like being on this end of it, it's really hard to know what they're seeing. And is the confidence misplaced? Or, are they looking at 11.5 already internally and going, man, if we just, get through this, it's going to be like, once people see this, it'll blow their minds. So, Trisha, yes, that was her name. So I hope she's enjoying the Mach-E. She seemed very excited about it. So that was very cool that it went to a good home. Safety for Most says the March of Nines is the wrong way to think about being better than a human driver. Should be the rate of fatal crashes and severe injury crashes compared to humans. There are rates for all types of highways. Yeah, that is ultimately how it will be measured. And it does, needs to be better than a human on those metrics. But obviously, the first fatality in beta or FSD, at whatever point it happens, because it probably will happen, almost assuredly, from whatever whether it's their fault or not. That will happen at some point. So it's hard to judge that when it's been 0, which is great, but it's also being overseen by people as well, ideally. So, yeah, they'll need to prove X amount of safe miles in these situations without disengagements. Because that lower disengagement rate, I'm trying to think. I don't know what a regulator would be looking into. I guess I should ask my wife about this because she works with the FDA and things on different regulatory things. I would think they'd be looking at how many miles without a disengagement in a suburban setting, in an urban setting, in a transitional setting between city and highway. And obviously you don't want to wait so long until you have a bunch of fatalities to compare. So it'll be interesting to see how they do that, and be interesting to know what a regulator would be looking for in that situation. Jim says he doesn't think we'll see version 11 until Dojo launches. We'll likely see 10.10, 10.11, 10.13. Well, on the call, I don't know if you had a chance to watch that, but he did say, as Jason said, he said FSD shouldn't depend on Dojo. They should be able to solve it before Dojo's ready. And it sounded like Dojo is on track for doing something useful this summer, but it's a moving target because their GPU cluster is also getting better that they're using now. And they want to wait to switch to Dojo for the big stuff until the GPU cluster users, the technicians who are using that, want to use Dojo instead. And he said that might not happen until next year, where Dojo is so proven and so efficient and maybe built out. But he thinks that might happen next year. But he said it's a moving target because the GPU clusters are also getting better. So I don't know what they're using or how that whole thing works, but he did say Dojo isn't required to achieve FSD. And if it's competitive to training neural nets, they would offer it to other people, which we kind of heard that. So, like I said, they seem really confident on it. I wouldn't say they can't get there this year. They're obviously looking at the data that I'm not. Having it go wide release, even as a beta, you still have to, even as a level 2 driver assistance, without a where you still have to pay attention, but it's kind of like autopilot or navigate on autopilot. You still have to pay attention, but it basically does everything pretty well. I can see them hitting that point and then accumulating a bunch of data and then submitting that to regulators, and then being able to say, look how many miles we've done these things safely. No, Jim, I didn't mean to make you feel bad. I didn't expect everybody saw the call. That's also kind of why I'm going through some of the stuff of what I took from it. But I completely understand that people have more going on in their lives than listening to Elon say prototypes are easy, production is hard, one more time. So other notes here. Yeah, so we'll just have to kind of see how that... I'm really interested in if version 11 is not a regression, which is kind of what I expect, because it's trying to marry everything together. If it's not a regression, then I think we're on a really good trajectory. If it is a regression, I'll think we're on the same trajectory. We just took a step back. But my confidence in it being solved this year, if version 11 is not a regression, will be much higher. If that made any sense. Todd says, safety for most crashes are the only metric that matters. That is true. But if humans are constantly intervening in what could be construed as avoiding a crash, then that intervention number will matter as a proxy for a while, I think. Todd says for general exception acceptation. I'm sorry, this is just far enough and with enough glare that I can't read it. Todd says, for people to accept FSD, society adoption of this will be more important than the safety of FSD. That could be, an important distinction of the safety might be there and people might not be comfortable, or people might be willing to live with a risk that's only 50% better than a human. Smart Summon. I don't know if they've done anything with that. Todd and I did a video last April when I got the Y on Smart Summon. I want to do that again this April, 1 year later. Has Smart Summon improved? We'll see if version 11 solves that. Safety for Most says, would you say no to saving 300 lives per year in Minnesota versus saving 400 lives 5 years out and allow 20,000 deaths because it didn't save 500? Yeah, I think that's going to be the metric of... That's going to be the kind of metrics that people are looking for. How often it's utilized will be based more on the what Todd was saying, societal exception. Hey, Ellie, can you come in here a second?
What?
Can you come in here a second? She's not dressed for this. Hi.
Hi.
You're on.
Look at this. What the hell?
Ellie works with regulators and stuff with the FDA.
They're a lot of fun.
We're just kind of talking through what do you think the parameters, how safe and how would they have to prove that safety from a full self-driving.
Sure.
Obviously, the ultimate metric would be how many crashes on FSD versus how many crashes humans make.
Right.
But if humans are intervening to avoid crashes, is that takeover rate the metric they'd have to look at, or would they just have to let it go in small tests and see how many people it kills? Or
I think it would have to be something like it's going to be stupid thorough and have no comparable equivalent for other kinds of cars. Like it's gonna seem really unfair and exhaustive and completely take for granted that no other car on its creation had to go through all these hoops.
Mm-hmm.
But it's because it is, that feature is defined so clearly and it's new enough, they're going to panic about it. You know what I mean? Like just based on, because they don't have a precedent and they're not comfortable when they don't have precedent. It's sort of like, it's the same thing with lawyers. If that makes sense.
That makes sense. I'll let you go now.
Okay.
Thanks. So, like I said, she works with regulators all the time, so I thought I would grab her as she's walking by and see what she thought. So yeah, it'll be really interesting how they categorize this and go through these different stages. Definitely, the ethical thing to do is, as soon as it's safer than humans, put it in all cars, and save those lives. Elon's we talked a little earlier. Elon's concerned about the population decrease. If you can save, 500 lives a year or whatever, that's going to keep your population up. And people not dying will help with that a great deal. Lives saved are very important. Yeah, version 11 definitely has to be better than now. Hi, John. FST drove John into a snowbank. Man, you've been having a tough time. He got hit and run in his car yesterday, too. So sorry about that. And it doesn't seem like the dash cam recorded, which is super frustrating. Yeah, so Todd and I will go out. We'll find maybe some of the same parking lots, play around with it, and hopefully version 11 is out by then. Hopefully I'm not still on 8.1 or 10.8.1, and we can hopefully see some big improvements, because it wasn't super comforting a year ago. Jim says his day job is also pharma-based, and we work with the FDA indirectly. Might be closer to aircraft certification, which is much more stringent. Yeah. If John says FSD is not going to be ready in a year, could be. I feel like it's going to be ready, and then everybody shut it off for winter. Maybe they can get it trained up in the next couple of years. We'll see. But Elon needs to come to Minnesota and drive on our roads with FSD. Yeah. Well, that is a concern, and that's the concern. People were saying, well, things are, the data set for California is overfit, and what they were saying is like the technicians were driving on all the roads Elon drives to make sure it worked great there. Well, that doesn't give him a realistic picture. I would hope he would know, I got to try some places that are a little more out in the boonies or whatever. But we'll see. Yeah, human driver is the baseline. Tesla is the one taking on liability. Regulators are the driver's license folks. So the better driver will be approved. Yeah, I know. I don't know if it was Zach and Jesse or Tesla Daily. I can't remember. Somebody was talking about there should be a like a driver's test, a driver's exam for these systems. And, maybe it's the exact same thing a human driver would have to do. Although I think you'd maybe want to be a little more thorough than that. Because with a human driver, you can assume that if they understand this concepts, they can transfer that over to other concepts, where maybe a program wouldn't be written in that way. I mean, that's the goal of the AI and the full self-driving, but I don't know. John is saying body shops are backed up for about 2 months. Ugh. That's too bad. Is yours bad enough that you need a rental now, or can you drive it till the work is done, or until the parts are here and the work can be done? A Kia anemic for rent? I don't know what that is. Anira? I've never heard of that. Been getting I've been getting a Kia Niro in about 2 months. Body shops are backed up to be ready to do a video on this. Oh, be ready to do a video on this vehicle. Okay, good. It's just cosmetic. That's never fun, but at least it's manageable. You can still drive with it. I still haven't got the clips replaced from when I hit that raccoon a few months ago. It just has never risen to the point of, I need to get back and finish making that appointment. I should do that before the road trip, though. Yeah, the Kia Niro. Yeah, that'd be a cool car. I haven't had a chance to drive yet, so if you get one for rent, I'll definitely come and check it out. Let's see what else was in the call. Optimus, the bot, was the first use will be at Tesla, moving parts around the factory probably. Seems like a good place to test it. The insurance is in 5 states now, and they're pushing California to change because the telemetrics-based system. And they made the comparison to Texas, where people are using the safety score and seeing what they can do to drive safer and get a better score. They are then also driving better, so they want California to, or getting into less accidents. We can all debate about whether the safety score helps or not. But I did see someone had posted this. I don't think it was a Photoshop, but someone had posted this on Twitter that with the new app update, the safety score only shows autopilot disengagements. I think it took out the forward collision warning, and it took out 2 of the most egregious metrics. Maybe it was hard braking. I think it was hard braking and the forward collision warning. And that was the thing that was really killing everyone. So I think sharp turning is still on there, which was kind of a pain, but I don't think it was dinging people nearly as much as those 2. Autopilot disengagements, and there's a third one that's still on there. I can't remember what it was, but hopefully they've simplified that and made it a little more manageable for people. Talked about Dojo. He was also going back to full self-driving stuff, he was talking about long-term, every car will have FSD. And that's going to make a lot more traffic. So maybe the Boring Company tunnels will help with that. Maybe Boring Company tunnels will help with that. I don't know if the same number of people need to get places. He was saying, we won't have parking lots per se. We'll need a lot more charging plazas with people who can plug and unplug cars, unless we have robo chargers too. But if it's cheaper than a bus, then people won't take the bus. They'll just take the robo-taxi. I don't know. I think his assumption of people... his assumption of people jumping onto the technology that fast is overestimated, I think. But we'll have to see. Once that happens, I would love to take like my mother or someone who has like no experience with this into something like that, or in my car on a complete FSD drive. Maybe that's a thing to do later this year when it is more complete, and say, okay, person who's had no experience with this, how do you feel riding in this? If I wasn't sitting in the driver's seat, would you have felt like it was a comfortable ride? Because I think when we're all in this world, even I was driving around myself today. I did a little bit of beta driving, but for a while I was just driving myself and kind of paying attention to how I speed up and slow down and turn and everything. And if I wasn't driving and anticipating it, would it feel like I'm jerking the wheel, or would it feel like, oh, why did I slam the brakes on there? Not that I really slammed them, but when you're not in control, there's a lot of difference in how you feel someone else controlling the car. I have a really hard time, no offense to my wife, but I have a really hard time sleeping in the car when she's driving, because her driving style is different than mine, and so the acceleration and deceleration methods and how we do things, it just feels wrong to me. And so I have a hard time relaxing and just letting go. She's perfectly safe driver. We haven't had any issues, but it's just, your brain is wired to do things the way you do them, and accepting any other system or human does take some sort of learning curve. Ideally, though, if FSD is all driving similarly in whatever vehicle you order, once you got used to that after a few weeks or whatever, that would feel pretty normal to you. Like now, after driving myself for a while, I put beta back on and I was like, oh yeah, this feels perfectly normal. So there's a matter of perspective and learning curve there. After I get it appraised for the dent, I'll take my Monroe Live sticker and put it over the dent. Yeah. Does she drive like we're on a racetrack? I drive like a grandpa. Yeah, maybe. No, she just... maybe I drive like a grandpa. I used to drive stick shift cars a lot, and so my goal with the stick shift was always make all the transitions as smooth as possible. When I was a kid, I used to ride to school sometime with my friend's mom in a... she drove us. I rode to school with my friends. My friend's mom drove us. And they had a little Volkswagen Rabbit. And man, when she shifted gears, it was just lurch, lurch, lurch. And so then when I started to learn to drive, I was like, man, I don't want that at all for my passengers. So I always tried to, keep things really light and smooth. And Ellie's got more of a put it down, lift it up, put it down, lift it up. And it's just a different driving style that she's perfectly comfortable with it. But yeah, maybe she'd do better on a racetrack than me. But anyway, then they also talked about a little bit about the energy business. They talked about that should get better with better chip supply. Didn't seem to be feeling battery constrained there at this point. At least that's not the vibe I got. Eventually a terawatt hour per year business, they think. There's just huge demand, limited by chips, and I think it'll grow faster than the vehicle market, which is good and stays on their mission. Obviously, if you just have to put some software in a big bank of batteries, you don't have to build a drivetrain, you don't have to build all that extra physical stuff. So it should grow faster if they can get the batteries and the chips to meet that. Then somebody asked a question about R&D that I thought was pretty interesting. And they said the money they spend on R&D is they work on things that go into their products, and the R&D isn't in a lab, it's more in the factory. And the questions they ask are, how do we do it? How do we do it at a reasonable cost? And how can we mass produce it? And so he was saying they have a bazillion ideas, but what can we actually do? And so those are the kind of three metrics that they're looking at. There was a question, and they talked a little bit about domestic heating and cooling. And they've kind of hinted that they wanted to do this, and this time they said, we will do it, but down the road because, again, there's so much on their plate. So that was very out of order, but pretty much all the big points that I took out of the call. So I did hear the guy drop the F-bomb. I thought it was very unexpected but funny, and clearly just I'm not just talking with people I work with, I'm talking on an earnings call. Oops. I don't think anybody, they didn't make any more mention of it. They didn't, I thought it was just a pretty simple, funny but pretty simple gaffe. Some other cool things that have been happening. If anybody has anything else they want to talk about the earnings call, just throw that in the chat. Like I said at the beginning, I thought the Dogecoin for McDonald's and the Grimace coin for Tesla back and forth was funny. I think, some people in the Tesla community thought that was stupid. It was stupid, but you have to have a sense of humor both ways. There's an article in Bloomberg this week about how Fremont, the Tesla Fremont plant, was the highest producing U.S. factory in 2021. And this kind of goes back to, it actually reminded me, they do things so unconventionally, but they're doing it in the Roland's out. Have a good night, Roland. Thanks for stopping by. But with Fremont, that's where they were putting the tents up to make Model 3s. And they're just doing it. And they're not always doing, getting things done in a conventional way, but they're doing it. And action is better than plans. It kind of reminded me of the Well Done Foundation, which I'm a big fan of. They're plugging abandoned oil wells up in Montana and Louisiana and Pennsylvania, and growing fast. They just added a member of their team. And some of the criticism has been, well, there's millions of these things, you can't plug them all. And that's true, but they can plug some of them, and they can actually do it. And they don't need, there's a little red tape and rigmarole, but now that they've got a system in place over the last couple of years, even that's accelerating. And if people are talking about plugging these, it's kind of like the saving lives thing. If people are talking about saving all these lives in 5 years or plugging all these wells in 5 years, and in the meantime, all these wells they're going to plug are going to keep spewing, and someone else is going to hit that same number in 5 years but is starting to close them now, you want those shut faster. Action is better than the plan, even if it's imperfect. And this kind of gets back to, if you saw the thumbnail, I had kind of the standings bleacher with, Ford and GM. The pedestal is higher. They're getting more recognition, frustratingly, from the government. There are obvious reasons why. But really, whether people talk about it or not, Tesla is the leader in EVs sales. So are they perfect cars? Are there problems with them? No, they're not perfect. Yes, there are some problems with some of them. But is anyone else outside of China making EVs faster and making that transition faster? Absolutely not. GM made 46 EVs last quarter, and again, there were some good reasons why that was the case. But if they hadn't crushed the EV1, Tesla wouldn't exist. They'd be the number one player in EVs. Ford's doing well. They're executing their plans and accelerating their plans, but they're not there yet. The president made a comment the other day about GM's adding 4,000 jobs to their EV plant in Michigan, and yet not a peep about Fremont, or which Fremont's been there for a long time, so I don't expect him to say anything about that. But all the jobs that are over twice as many jobs that are going to be happening in Austin, solely making EVs. That company, Tesla's not making anything else. There was also a tweet from the administration about how we're on track. EVs have, the sales of EVs have doubled this year. Yeah, but Ford was a handful of those. GM was a very small handful of those, and the rest was Tesla. And there's just obviously a lot of frustration in the Tesla community, but it doesn't matter if they're still pushing those companies to build EVs faster, and if they're still producing as many as they possibly can. Would it be nice that the most American-made vehicle could be acknowledged? Yes, but I think that's unlikely to happen, and we just have to deal with it, even though it is super frustrating. So Tesla is the leader to anyone paying attention, I guess, and the rest of it doesn't matter. And once people switch to an EV, they'll come to understand that. So, anyway, it's all good. Promoting EVs overall is good, even if it can be frustrating. Gonna dive into this. John, yes, it is sad to ignore them. GM is definitely not the leader. I actually originally in my thumbnail, I didn't do statistical analysis for my thumbnail. I thought I had read that Ford actually sold more EVs than GM last year. So it was going to be Tesla first, Ford second, and GM third. But since they both say they're the leader, I put them both at second. We'll see. John asks, do you keep track of how many kilowatts you charge per month? I don't. I actually am very hands-off on my home data. I plug in, it charges overnight. I did a major gaffe this week too, and I just don't look at it. I just, I charged whatever I needed, and I don't think about it much, unless I'm going to do a video or something on it. The stupid gaffe I made was the cold winter drive for last week's video. I think I did on Thursday of last week. It was Thursday or Friday. And I had set my charge level up to 100. And then I guess it was... it doesn't matter what day it was. But I set my charge level to 100, and usually when I get back from a test like that, I'll make sure I drop it down. Well, I didn't, and then the next day, I didn't go anywhere, and maybe one more day, I didn't go anywhere. So any that I lost during the day, well, it was plugged in and just cold. It recharged then the next morning to 100, and then recharged the following morning to 100. And hopefully that didn't do any long-term damage. But we'll see when summer comes. Actually, this Friday I'm going to do kind of a benchmark test with another person's Model Y. Made about the same time. He's still on the stock tires and everything. And so we're going to compare his Model Y long range to mine and see if the losses I saw last week were just... this is how it is, or if there's something different going on with my car. So hopefully that's an interesting test. I know it will be for me. I don't know if it's going to translate to a lot of people, but hopefully if we see a couple Model Ys with similar results, if you're getting similar results, you'll know you're in the ballpark of what other people are getting. Let's see. Original Build Back Better had money to plug abandoned wells. Yeah, that was... I actually have one of his campaign speeches, or a couple of his campaign speeches had money, or had, that was kind of a major talking point in the climate change talks. It's really such an apolitical thing. These are wells that are not producing anymore, and they're just sitting open. And, maybe there's a rock on it or something. But if you haven't checked out the Well Done Foundation, visit their website. They got all sorts of stats and great photos that Curtis takes when he's out on site. Yeah, there's no agenda. It's just like you're walking by a campsite and somebody left all of their picnic stuff out and just drove away. You don't have to be on one side of the aisle or the other to say, hey, we got to clean that crap up. That's just, you know, I didn't see all the seasons of Mad Men, but one of the first seasons, they went on a family picnic, and at the end of the picnic, the wife just grabbed the picnic cloth or whatever they had, and just shook it off and let everything blow into the woods. And it was one of those, holy crap, like, you would never ever do that now, but it was fairly common back in the day. So, yeah, I don't know. You know, unfortunately, there's so many, you know, people talk about, you know, there's a lot of pork in these big bills, and there is, but there's also a lot of good stuff that ends up being the stuff that gets cut. And this stuff just gets, the can keeps getting kicked down the road. And that's why, you know, like, I'm such a big fan of the Well Done Foundation, because it's like, Curtis was out in the field and he's like, what the hell is that? We need to fix that. How do I go about fixing that? And there's another one over there. Now we're going to go fix that one. And now we're going to go fix that one. And you know, and now they're doing it in at least 3 states. And, yeah, making progress on something that's just being debated everywhere else. So, let's see. Good night, Dave. Thanks for stopping by. I'm looking forward to your next video. If you haven't checked out Dave's channel, he's got a lot of great stuff. John says, during my drives on the ice, car traction control recognizes the ice because you can see it re-engaging, but it still wants to drive too fast even when it's slipping. Drives too fast, yeah. Being so cold in the garage, I don't think it did any damage. You don't want to do that during the summertime. Yeah, it's definitely not in the summertime. That would be bad. Once I realized it, I quick got my daughter. It was Saturday or Sunday morning when I realized it, and I quick got my daughter dressed. My wife wasn't up yet, but I'm like, we got to go for a drive right now. Burn some of that off. Yeah, they probably didn't get overheated. I just can't imagine it's good to sit at 100% that long, but you never know. My garage is roughly around, this time of year is roughly around 20 to 25 degrees. So it's not super cold, but the other thing I wanted to mention was, and maybe this will be more of a focus for next week's live stream. There's a fun video by EV Up North, another Minnesota Model 3 owner. If you look up EV Up North on YouTube, you'll find him. He went ice fishing on Lake Mille Lacs with his Model 3. And that was kind of a fun little adventure. So kind of one of those things I've always wanted to do and just haven't had my cars out on the ice yet. And then Tom Malogney, this is the thing I was saying I might focus a little more on next week, is Tom Malogney did his test of the Lucid Air and got 500 miles with it, going 70 miles an hour. It took him 7.5 hours, I think he said. Definitely worth checking that video out. And then it's on Inside EVs, and Inside EVs also did a Q&A live stream with him, like bonus episode, just yesterday, I think. It was about 45 minutes or so of people asking questions and him kind of giving the specifics behind the scenes on it. So that's one I meant to share on social media too, if I haven't yet. That people always say, yeah, come back to me when there's, I can get 500 miles on a charge. Well, now you can get 500 miles on a charge. And he said even though the car is very comfortable, he was pretty worn out, by the end of that. And I can imagine. I think he only stopped once or twice, I think he said. So that's a long haul. So cool that there's a new Range King. Again, most people don't need that, but if if they can do 500, maybe someone will do 520, maybe someone will do 550. As these pickup trucks come out, when they need to tow, that range is going to come down. It'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out. Yeah, I guess I could have rolled the heat down, or rolled the windows down, turned the heat on. Yeah, Zach and Jesse did a thing on Tesla service. I know people have had nightmare issues with it. It hasn't been really bad for me. Some things have taken a while to come in, but never never where it was so burdensome. But I know it has happened, and that can be, yeah, it can be frustrating. Yeah, Jason is right. Yeah, service can be hit or miss at Tesla, and yeah, something is in spec. The situation they cited in their show was somebody not getting a brake caliper or something, or a brake pad or something. Was pretty egregious, pretty terrible, and I can't believe no one noticed that. And it's super frustrating. They do need to get more service centers up and running. Sounds like we're going to get one in Bloomington here in Minnesota. But that stuff doesn't get permitted and purchased right away. And now they've got Rogers too. Hopefully that helps a little bit, at least in our area. Yeah, the dreaded within spec. Yeah. The thing to keep in mind, though, and it is super frustrating, and on an individual basis, it's super annoying and can sour a person on a brand. But every big brand has unhappy customers. It's gonna happen. As we talk about all these great sales numbers, these great delivery numbers. Hey Chris, welcome. How's it going? We were just talking about ice fishing. Someone did an ice fishing video in their Model 3, the YouTube channel EV Up North. Apparently they got a Whopper, but somehow the camera didn't work during that part of it. But like I was saying, these great EV sales in the U.S. doubled this year. It's fantastic. But when a company's growing that fast, there are going to be problems. You're going to run into unhappy customers. Like we just had my wife stop by. She works in regulatory on the back end. So after things have gone wrong, they make a ton of this product and it works great for most people. There are issues with some of them. Some hospitals don't use them right. Nurse enters a number in wrong. Something goes haywire. It's unfortunate. It shouldn't happen. You should never want that to happen. But realistically, with a big company making a lot of products, with a lot of employees, things are going to be done wrong. A service center will give bad information or be callous or overworked or not think, think through the way their answer is coming through. And it sucks when it happens to you. It really does suck. But I don't think the major gaffes are as widespread as the ones that get the big attention. Obviously, there are some frustrating within spec issues and things, and in Jason's example, they gave him a $20,000 in-spec interior, and he still ended up getting another Tesla. So there must be something good about the cars too, even when there are issues. And hopefully, as they get better at producing, as Austin comes online, and an extra benefit of Austin coming online is that Fremont has not been able to breathe for ever, essentially. And if it can just take some of the pressure off and they can fix some of those things, some of those gripes or, issues, because they've got time to either upgrade equipment on the line. Presumably Austin has more advanced equipment than what's running in Fremont. And hopefully that stuff is all more dialed in. Maybe once it's, maybe 9 months from now, when Austin is just rolling like a machine, they say, okay, all this stuff is dialed in. Now we're going to replace, this part of the line some weekend in Fremont. And then another part of the line this weekend in Fremont. And hopefully that'll be really hopefully that will improve quality everywhere. Chris, you're not the Chris I thought you are, but still, good information on the ice fishing video, if you have any interest in doing that. I have a friend, the Chris K I thought you were, was a friend of mine from grade school who actually was the person who I used to ride to school with in the mom's Volkswagen Rabbit, which is why I have that Chris on my mind. So sorry about that. On the other note, do you agree that they should have more service centers? Yeah, definitely. They should have. If they build the one in Bloomington and it's good size and can manage a lot of people, and they've got Rogers and Maplewood, and they just expanded Maplewood. It would be nice to see one in Fargo or maybe like a Watertown, South Dakota. Maybe like a Rapid City, South Dakota, or Dickinson, North Dakota. I know there's not a ton of, for those states, there are a ton of Tesla owners there. But, someone in there with a handful of mobile Rangers could really reach out into Montana, into Wyoming. I don't know how. I'm trying to think of the Wyoming, Colorado, because Colorado I think has some good super service centers, although they just lost one there in the fires not long ago. Yeah, sorry about that, Chris. Yeah, they should have more service centers. They should definitely have more approved body shops. And they should also, I think in Zach and Jesse's thing, they were talking about, again, when the pressure comes off Fremont, does, Texas just keep cranking and Fremont take a month or a week and just make parts and then distribute those parts. That's a great idea because then you wouldn't be having those issues. Yeah. So yeah, I think Lemaitrie's did Todd's body work too, and I think it turned out really well, but it did take a while. So that's unfortunate, and yeah, getting more parts into the world would help. Sorry, I just nailed the microphone there. So I think that's all of my notes. I managed to cover the 1 hour Tesla meeting in just over 2 hours of live stream. But I think we had some good conversation about FSD, where that's going, how they're gonna do the checking. Oh, thanks, John. Appreciate that. I think there might be a way. Appreciate the super chat there, John. You don't have to do that, but very nice of you. I think there's a way that I can maybe add that to the... I've seen other people do this. Ooh, yeah. Let's see if I can move you around here. Ooh, a super sticker. I didn't even see that. I don't know the difference between a sticker and a... Anyway. Cursive teal lettering spelling out yum. That's strange, but fun. So, thanks a lot. I'm going to try to get a little better at live streaming. I'm kind of wrapping up my thoughts here, so tangent time and going a little inside baseball. But I'm going to try to do a little bit better of, adding some graphics, when I'm talking about some of these tweets and things, actually bringing them up on screen. The trick is, as I'm looking at you, all of my controls for the live stream are on a monitor over there. And so it makes it a little awkward. If I can get another monitor behind here, I'm watching the live stream as you guys are seeing it on a laptop here. And that's how I can read all the comments as they come up in the chat. But it's hard to do controlling features with a trackpad from over here onto that monitor. So working on maybe a sidecar iPad or something in front of me so I can do some of that stuff. Just make this a little more action-oriented, give you a little different visuals, other than my flailing hands just coming into the frame all the time. So, yeah, that's about all I've got. Yeah, so sure, you could have heard it from the horse's mouth and listened to the hour-long live stream, or you could have watched this. But I appreciate that you did and that you've come and hang out. I'm also considering maybe making the live stream. I've gone with the everyone's an expert because I kind of started this out of frustration. out of how much misinformation there was in comment threads on EV posts. And everyone's an expert on Facebook or on Twitter about how, EV businesses should be run, how production should be done, how, lithium-ion batteries are all going to end up in a landfill. All these kind of things you hear all the time. So starting this was kind of a vent of my frustration for all that stuff, which is still out there all the time. Just read through a long thread today that was just mind-bogglingly stupid. And it's like, this stuff was disproven like 5 years ago. How did you come up with this hot, fresh take? But anyway, I'm considering moving the live stream to a new channel that would, and maybe change the name where it would be more like, almost like a call-in EV helpline. So if you had questions or if you were looking at different EVs, we could, kind of help as a resource to help new owners. And maybe have different owners of different EVs on the show with me to help answer questions and stuff like that. The trick is, if I do that on a new channel, I don't think you can start live streaming on a new channel right away. So I got to kind of figure out the background stuff there. But I think a more productive way than me just being frustrated and like, oh, everyone's an expert on the internet, might be due. This is the good kind of English you came here for. It might do more good in helping people make the transition to EVs or getting comfortable with the idea of doing that, to do more of a like a Q&A kind of situation with newer owners. I do like this because it's more hangout focused and just, hey, whatever someone throws up there, we'll talk about it. So I like this format for that, but just some of the things that are rolling around in the back of my head. So if anybody has any thoughts about that, or if you think that format would be more helpful, or you like the hangout format, whatever, just let me know. Put it in the comments and I'll see it, or throw it in the chat during the show. But for now, I think that's all I've got. Thank you everyone for joining. Really appreciate it. John, thanks for the yum sticker. Can't you change the name on this YouTube channel? I could change the I can change the name of the live stream. Like, I just made that up out of, because like I said, I was frustrated, like, oh, everyone's an expert. And so I thought, hey, if everybody else is an expert and they're all wrong, I could be an expert and be right some of the time. Yeah, so I could change the name and just do another like live stream on this channel. But live streams don't do great for helping a channel grow. And so I'm kind of thinking of shifting the focus and making that its own channel of just like live stream stuff. Would help this channel grow a little faster and get out to more people. And then if they have questions, they could come to the other channel and ask it on a live stream. That's kind of my thinking. I got to like flesh this out a little bit more. But I do like doing this. I like the interactive part of it. And yeah, having another guest or somebody on that could talk to another kind of EV, or maybe that's a rotation of guests or whatever. might be helpful too. So let me know your thoughts on that. John says 9:30 at night is too late for a lot of people. You'd have to have it a lot earlier. That's true. I could do it during the day. I do 9:30 at night because my daughter's bedtime is 9. And so that gives me enough time to get down here, turn on lights on the camera, make sure everything's set, send out the tweet and the Facebook post saying that this is happening. It gives me a couple minutes to do that after she goes to bed. If I did that during the day would be better. But if I'm also trying to get guests who have other EVs, if they have kids and they're dealing with the same thing, it might be tough. So I don't know. There's a whole formatting thing. Sorry, just nailed the microphone again. I got to put my head around. But just wanted to throw that out there if anybody had any thoughts or input. Earlier in the day is possible. I just need to find a good time to make sure I can carve that out consistently every week is the trick on that. Where this is pretty easy. She goes to bed. My wife's watching her TV shows or working, and I can just, sit in the basement on the internet and be angry and shake my fist at things, which is what the internet is for, of course. So with all of that, thanks a lot for hanging out. Have a great night, and I'll catch you in the next one. Like I said, this Sunday's video should be a kind of benchmarking test of my car versus another one that should be pretty identical, but we'll see if that's the case. That's the plan for now anyway. You'll see that come out on Sunday. So have a great night. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate you joining me. It's always fun to hang out. So thanks.